In case you're new, we're in a new series. It's 4 weeks long, and it's called Vinyl. And we're going to take some classic songs and turn some classic truths out of them, or pull some classic truths out of them. If you were here before that, we did 4 months of 1 Corinthians. So we do those religious things too, just so you guys know. I'll tell you a little secret among pastors is when you do a series in 1 Corinthians, it's usually your last series at that church. Just so you know, it's a secret code we have. It gets a little intense. But this song, this is 1981 it was released, and it wasn't actually their biggest hit. It becomes their biggest hit, but at first it's just a single they release, and it was on their album Escape. This is the greatest hits, but Escape. And it was a pretty special song, but where it really struck me, and I told you about this last week, but me and a buddy, we would go out to Millerton Lake at 6 a.m. once a week. There would be glass because we're the first ones on the lake, and the steam's coming because it's cold, hitting the heat of the water. I'm in my wetsuit, and I'm in the water, and he would blast this song every single time, and it just got me so pumped. I was like, oh yeah, here we go. Start doing my flips and crazy. I had the greatest runs ever. Anyway, where it comes from though is Jonathan Cain, 1970s, and he wanted to be a musician, so he moves to Hollywood from Chicago. He's trying to make it big. He keeps hitting all these blocks and these doors, just like most people that go to Hollywood. And then his dog gets hit by a car. Yeah, you guys are really into the story. I like this. He calls his dad. It's a true story. He calls his dad, and his dad, he asks his dad for a loan. He needs $900 for the vet bills, and he's like, I can't even pay my rent. Dad, what am I doing? Should I just move back to Chicago? Are these dreams, is this all just so dumb? And the dad says, I'll give you the loan. You've got to stay put. And then he says, son, don't stop believing. And when he says that, Jonathan was, or is that Jonathan? I already forgot his name. Yeah, Jonathan was moved, and he doodles it down, and he starts this song, and that's where it comes from. Steve Perry later says about this, personally, it's something that means a lot to me. Everybody has emotional issues and problems, and the song has helped me personally to not give up. I'm finding a lot of people feel that. And it's so true. It's more than just the magnetic voice of Steve Perry singing the song. It's about these words. Don't stop believing. Don't give up. Keep going. Press through. This morning, as we're entering this room, some of you probably entered with a difficult thing happening in your life, something that is weighing on you, and you hear the song, don't give up. Don't stop. Don't stop believing. God has more for you. Luke 8:22 says this, and we'll use this as our text if you want to turn there. Luke 8:22. One day, Jesus said to his disciples, let us go over to the other side of the lake. So they got into a boat and they set out. As they sailed, he fell asleep. A squall came down the lake so that the boat was being swamped and they were in great danger. And the disciples went and woke him saying, Master, Master, we're going to drown. He got up, he rebukes the wind and the raging waters. The storm subsides and all was calm. Where is your faith, he asked his disciples. In fear and amazement, they asked one another, who is this? He commands even the winds and the water, and they obey him. Now, what's interesting about the Sea of Galilee, where they're located and all this is happening, it's about 600 feet below sea level. And all around it are these cliffs, and there's these massive cliffs that just surround this sea. And I was just there. I took a picture of that because I knew this sermon was coming. And I took a picture of it to kind of show you what would happen is when it's raining, the water is coming through those areas. But when it's not, the wind is coming through those areas. And it whips down that side of those cliffs onto the sea. So what seems calm at first, within 10 to 20 minutes, it can be a raging sea and just sort of totally catch you off guard. And also, you have to remember the boats they're in. I took a picture, another picture in this boat, and they pulled this from the bottom of this sea. And this is what an old boat would look like. And you kind of see the difference between what they were in versus what we might be in today. And you can kind of capture the idea that this is pretty intense for them. They are feeling like their lives are in complete danger. In fact, every one of them write about it. Luke writes that the storm was so bad the ship was full of water. Mark writes the waves were beating the ship that it was full of water. Matthew says the waves were covering the ship. So obviously it hit all of them pretty hard. They're all putting it in their text about, remember that time we were on the water and nearly died? And that's what you see in here. In fact, the Greek word that's used for the storm is seismos. Same word we're using to measure earthquakes. So it's a seismic event, the way they're describing what is happening to them. And as we come to this text this morning, what I want to ask you is, how many of you are feeling like the storms of life are coming over your wave? The waves are hitting your boat. You're feeling that seismic event and that weight of what's happening right now. That's what we're talking about today. Too many things are coming at you. Things are stacking up. You feel like you're getting pummeled. Another bill shows up. You're like, I can't. The person, there's a toxic person in your life and you can't deal with them for another day. An illness that keeps pulling you back over and over again. You parents, that baby keeps getting up at 5 a.m. and you're like, oh man, here we go again. Starting my day way too soon. It can be overwhelming. Whatever you're facing, these moments happen. When the pandemic first started, I went on Craigslist and I bought surfboards for myself and all the kids, because we normally would go to Disneyland. That's like our weekly trip. We had the passes and that was our family time, and they closed it. They actually closed the beach. They closed everything. The beaches were closed. You couldn't put a picnic or a blanket out, but they would let you walk across the beach and get into the water in the ocean. So I'm like, okay, that's our new family thing. But here's the thing about surfing. I know we've all seen the YouTube videos where they're like shredding some amazing wave. It's a lot harder than that in reality. I don't know if you know this, but everything in the ocean's trying to kill you. I get out there, and first of all, you hear about the currents. You got to watch for the currents. Don't go in this part. It'll just pull you out 1,000 yards, or I don't know, whatever. And then you have like, as soon as you're in the water, you're drifting like at a massive pace. And you go, where did I park? And you realize, oh, my shoes, it has my keys and my wallet in, are really far away now. And I just got in the water. And then there's all these other surfers out there, and they have these knife-shaped fiberglass blades that they're on. They're just firing all over the place around you. Like there's death surrounding you. So I'm out there with my kids, dodging all these surfers, trying to watch my keys. And then there's these things called supersets. And so what would happen is, waves, if you don't know, don't just come in nice and easy, one after the other, perfectly timed, all the same size. They have these supersets that come randomly. It's not that random, but it is. And they come in and they're way bigger. Now, most surfers are looking for that. We were not looking for that, but most are waiting for the superset. So I'm out there and I try and dip under the set. And dipping is when you take the front of your surfboard and you shove it into the water because you don't want to be pushed back to the beach. And you go under, nice and easy, just under the wave. Well, I missed it completely. And so I get sucked over the falls is when you get sucked up and then boom, and then you're spin cycled, just rolling in it, just ragdolled inside of this water. It's quite scary. And you're grasping for air. Like, think of it this way. If you were swimming with your buddies and you go, all right, who can swim the farthest underwater holding their breath? And you all jump under the water and you go for it. But what you do first is you take a big breath in and then you have that little activity, right? When you're sucked over the falls, you miss out on the big breath in before you play the game. And so I am down there just being ragdolled through this, no air, and I don't know which way is up. I finally find a little bit of air, and I suck a big gulp of air, but it's a superset, which means the next wave is there to pummel me again. Anyone ever done this before? It's a fun activity. If you guys want to just go out, That next wave hits so hard. They say a cubic meter of water weighs about a ton. So if you have a 10-foot wave, 20 feet wide, you're facing 410 tons. That's 315 cars being dropped on you in that moment. That's what it feels like. And sometimes in our life, that's what it feels like. You keep trying to get the breath, and bam, the next wave hits. You don't know which way is up and down. You just keep getting pummeled. There's pressure and weight. It's tiring. It's confusing. You can't get a breath. And what the message is today, don't stop believing. Don't stop believing. A couple of observations when you're in that spin cycle. In your notes, number one, it's a wave. They come and they go. After the superset, the water is calm. It always does it. If you can survive through those hits, it's temporary. It's always temporary. Temporary is actually built into the fabric of our life. You have so many moments that are temporary. Some are like, kids and their stages of life. You're always surprised by it. Some are those hard, difficult moments. But it always returns back. You always come back to something new. In 2 Corinthians 4:16, it says, "Therefore we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we're wasting away, inwardly we're being renewed day by day." What does lose heart mean? The Greek is ekikeo. That's right, everyone say that really fast. Ekikeo. It's a fun word. It means to be utterly spiritless. It means exhausted or worn out. But what is he saying there? We do not lose heart. We don't get to that point. You may feel that way on the outside, but not on the inside. You still have hope. You still have Jesus. You still have an eternity, and this is temporary. Verse 17, "For our light and momentary troubles," which is a weird way to say it, but that's how he's saying it, "are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." He's saying this will pass. Don't fret. It will return. You will get your air again. And if your life is just humming along this morning, cupcakes and rainbows, all right, great. That's also temporary. And the Bible speaks of that as well. You go up, you go down. There are storms and there are joys. Times are good, sometimes they're bad. That is life. All right, second observation in the spin cycle is you got to live in the present one day at a time. You ever notice that kids are happier than us? My parents, they would ask me every year, actually ask both myself and my sister, "Where do you want to go for Christmas?" We'd have like one vacation a year, about 3 days, and so every year I would yell as loud as I could, "Disneyland," which doesn't surprise anyone in this room at this point. And for some reason, we would go there every single year at Christmas time. And you know what would happen? Each year, you know what I would ask from the day he said we were going to the day we left for our trip? What would I say? Are we going today? Like, is today the day? Because time doesn't really make sense to kids. They don't really understand time. Children are living in the today. So my kids are the same way. They want every day to be magical. In fact, they literally ask my wife and I, "What magical thing are we going to do today?" Because we like magical moments. And sometimes I'm like, okay, we just spent all this money on a magical moment and it was so awesome and I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. And then the next day they say, "Okay, what's the magical thing we're going to do today?" And I'm like, you guys are breaking me. We just don't operate that way as adults. We're excited for big moments, but we know that they're few and far between. With that in mind, we have to have that same thought when it comes to the tough moments. They are few and far between. You have to keep that in there. It will pass. Be present in the now. Deal head on with whatever you're facing right now. The spin cycle will stop. You will be able to breathe again. The calm water does return. You guys familiar with the story of the 300? Great story, great movie. It's 480 BC And it's the Sparta King Leonidas versus Xerxes. And Xerxes, that they like are controlling the whole world. It's like a major army. And if Sparta, with his 300, took them on in the open field, they're gone. They'd all be blown apart in seconds. So what they do is they get them to come down this valley, and it's this mountain valley to where they get locked in, coming through like at a one or two at a time. And then the Spartans, those 300, can battle them one by one, and they just start taking them out. Boom, boom, boom. That's how we have to face our temporary struggles. You have to face it one at a time and battle each one going, okay, I'm going to stay present in the current struggle, not the next 5. I'm not going to think about the next thing and the next thing and all these other struggles. I'm going to face this one right here, right now. If you're a surfer or you swim in the ocean at all, you know that if you thrash against the wave and you try and fight it and fight it and fight it, you just lose all your energy and it's more harm than good. But if you'll go with it, let it spin you through, and then you just deal with the issue of not drowning. All right? You just get get some air, then you can face on where's the beach? How do I get back to the beach? You go with the current. I'm just helping you with your swim lessons right now. Go with the current and you get to the beach. Then you can decide how far am I from my keys and my shoes. Like you deal with one issue at a time. This is also how we face the current struggle we're facing. James 1:2 says this, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials. Again, interesting verses of any kind, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Another version says steadfastness. Another version says endurance. All the same word, but they're saying this concept of power in an unpleasant or a difficult situation without giving way. You will make it. Perseverance, endurance. Keep pressing through. Take each issue one at a time. Third observation is this moment doesn't define you. There are people here this morning that you really need to hear this. This problem, this situation, this bill, this illness, this relationship, whatever it is, it's only a moment, and do not let it define you or defeat God's purpose for you. God has created you for a purpose. He put you here right now in this time, and whatever you're facing, that doesn't define you. Think about how the disciples define themselves. They don't go around later writing, we are saved from the Wavians. Please call us saved from the Stormians. They all wrote about the storm. They all faced the storm. It was a life-changing moment for them, but they don't define themselves by the storm. No, they call themselves disciples, which means followers of God. Some call themselves apostles, those who have been with Jesus. Later, they call themselves Christians, which means like Christ. They're not defined by the storms they face. They are defined by who they follow. It changes everything if you understand how you are defined in this world. Don't stop believing that you are more than just this one moment. Don't stop believing that God loves you, cares for you, and is with you. You are a child of God. You have unsurpassable value. What did the disciples do during the storm? The disciples went and woke him up, saying, Master, Master, we're going to drown. They went to the Master. And what was he doing? Sleeping, which is really odd. Really odd that while they are thinking they're going to die, he's sleeping. It's really odd to think, while I'm going through the spin cycle, Jesus is sleeping. But he was on the boat, and he was in the storm. He was in the same situation as they're in. He just has a different response. He doesn't see the problem the same way the disciples see the problem. He is calm, and he responds with authority. He got up, rebuked the wind, the raging waters, and the storm subsided, and all was calm. Notice what that means. If he's rebuking something, it's not from God. He doesn't rebuke things that are from God. So therefore, what you know here is the storms that are coming at us are not from God. But in the same sentences, he is in the storm with you. He's on the boat with you. He just is treating the issue different than you are because he has the authority against it. So when we have this authority in our life, it changes our response to the storms of life. He's the umbrella against the pounding rain. He's our life raft against the crashing waves. He's our rescue when all seems lost. The enemy is the one that's continuing to throw the next superset and the next superset. They want you to have just a breath and then boom, hit you again. Because in your fear is where doubt comes in. That's when you allow the doubt in, and God continues to say, I am with you in the storm. I didn't bring the storm, but I am with you in it. I have you. I love you. And you know what? Don't stop believing. Anyone in a storm right now? Jesus is in the midst of it with you. He's on the boat with you. Doesn't mean he's going to take it away. No, sometimes we have to face it. But calm is coming. It's always temporary. On your notes at the bottom, there's a little card there. And in that card, it's a guest card, so if you're new, fill it out. But there's also a part for prayer. Take a moment right now. What's the storm that you want prayer for? And us as a staff, there's a whole prayer team, we want to pray through it with you. We know that's real. We also know it's temporary, and we know who has the authority against it. So if you're willing, let us know, and we will pray with you in these moments. This Jesus is for you, not against you. And he loves you right where you are, not for who you were, but right where you are right now. And if you're here today and you do not have this Jesus in your life, I got to tell you, you're missing out. He's with you in all that you're facing and loves you. Romans 3:23 says, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. We've all had to have this moment where we said, God, I need you in the boat. I need you in the storm. And I'm going to start to believe and never stop believing again. Romans 6:23 says, for the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus our Lord. There it is, the gift of Jesus, that no matter what you face, he will be with you. How do we get the gift? Romans 10:9 says, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. That's his promise to you. And if you're in here this morning and you don't have that, what are you waiting for? You don't want to face life without it. There's no other way. It's so good.